Hello, 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 hello. Hello. I think I'm going on YouTube. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you back to another Tuesday afternoon crypto show with me. Right here at this New York Stock Exchange close. And I guess I was going to start this with our fancy new website, which isn't that fancy. It's just nice and simple. But we do have our cryptotradersarena.com up. So if you ever need to find us or, well, find Paul, this is where you find us. This is Paul actually right here. So we decided to use Paul's image for this banner. I think I'm streaming right now. I did have some internet issues just right before I started here, so hopefully I'm streaming, but it looks like I got the green light here. If somebody could just say hey. But anyhow, looks like I'm going. So where do we get started today? I don't know. Crypto's kind of sort of boring at the moment, but we're still just kind of plugging away, looking for bottoms here somewhere in the next little while. So trying to nibble our way into crypto. I feel like very much patient here. I don't feel any rush to be buying this stuff, to be honest. So I might be a little more cautious than most people, perhaps. I don't know. Hey, David. But nonetheless, without a doubt, got to say that we're closer to the bottom than the top. And I think most of the bear market is behind us. Problem with altcoins, to be honest, is they just have a lot more room to go lower. And I have said that I think prices will probably be lower into the end of the year. So that kind of means I think that altcoins are probably going to be lower into the end of the year in general. There's a couple strong things I found today, and I don't know, some nice looking charts, but in overall, I'm not seeing like solid bottoms. Excuse me. Kind of losing my voice a little bit. Have been doing a lot more talking lately now that I stream pretty much 5 days a week, and then on Sundays as well with Paul. And we got our school going here, so had a pretty epic long talk on last Friday on market state and stuff. So maybe I'm a little bit talked out at the minute, but see if I can make it through this. Anyhow, let's jump into some stuff to look at here really quick. I'll just do a little quick market overview really quick and just mention the DXY finally has pulled back a little bit here. So I think probably last Tuesday was right here. Actually, it was we had hit the 50% level. So I remember talking about that here. Pretty solid location to see the end, not the end, but like at least a pause in this straight up move here. We basically just bounced directly up into the 50% level here, straight up for 3 months. So solid move in the DXY, but ultimately put in a little 3-bar top. I think that was even, well, yeah, kind of on the last Friday, this sort of FU candle, it kind of just popped up into like lower time frame reload zones and then rolled it over. And now we're starting to get below the 13 EMA and pretty decent pullback. That's not a huge surprise, I suppose. It kind of looks like a little head and shoulders starting to form to me. So maybe we get a bounce right here at the neckline and maybe we see a top like that. Some call that a head and shoulders. Some people might call it a cock and balls. But either way you slice it, we have gotten at least the start of a pullback, and I think that coincides with the uppiness in the stock market. However, crypto doesn't seem to have that same uppiness of late. So basically since Friday's news, the stock market dipped and then bounced really hard and is basically trying to put in a pivot, which moving on to like just to show you that really quick, the SPY basically just came down into 200 period moving average support. So which is also probably like 38.2s, I think, if I drew a range, this fib range here off the lows, change that to yeah, show 38.2 right at 416, 417 on the SPY, which is also this key high going back to February, which is also just a big old W. So like clearly like this 4200, well, 4200 on the ES, 420 on the SPY, 420. That's clearly like a key level. And when we broke through that, that was just a big, massive W with a little W here, and just pretty big up move straight out of the gates there. And now we're just back down there and finding support. So that, or at least got back down there and bounced. So it's not a huge surprise to see a bounce right there. And then, funny enough, we still are in the uptrend. So, I think drawing a trend line off here. Talked about trend lines last week a lot in school. I think even just taking that trend line right there, and you can also see the same kind of support here that's coming in against 38.2, 200 period moving average trend line. So this is what I would call a dead cat bounce, right? Because to be clear, we have a big old M here. We have another M right here, which is also in a short reload zone off of just that, down move there, bounced up in short reload zones off there. Didn't quite get up into this gap, but maybe just FU'd that gap, funny enough. That's that's pretty nasty little FU of the gap there, but nonetheless have an M here. So clearly we have rolled over in some effect here with the big old M, and also big old M and OBV. So I think it's not a great sign for the bulls, but nonetheless we are still kind of hanging on to the overall uptrend. So kind of sandwiching basically in between, like the 200 is pointing higher and acting as support, and then you got short reload zones kind of getting up into this area. This gap's trying to fill right now, and basically a move back up into that M, which is close to 61.8 here, like 444. That's like the beginnings of short location, I'd imagine. So any moves up into there seem pretty shortable if you're willing to take a shot against this M, which is not unreasonable. And keep in mind, we're in a big short reload zone off of the old highs too. So I suppose in the stock market, you got to just kind of ask yourself if you're still a bull in any fashion and you think they could take out this M and move to new highs. I don't know. It's a pretty big M. Like on a weekly chart for fun, just to look at it, that's even, very much a weekly M, very clear. And I think there's OBV divergence, if I remember correctly. And not quite on that SPY, just an M. But clearly there's no divergences, but both RSI and OBV got M's here. And that's like a classic setup, right? This is what you'd call like a market structure shift or an M, whatever you want to call it. And then currently we have the Wyckoff check, which is basically just checking the M top. And so really, I mean, I'm not saying go do this, but like you could argue there's probably a setup here where you're just basically like on a lower time frame setup, something like just hitting the M breakdown level and risking to the top of the M. That's a pretty common setup. Now, if you want to be snipier, you'd probably look for higher levels here to actually short. But for just a basic kind of general setup of like shorting this M, let me draw that right there. Entering on the test of the M breakdown's pretty reasonable. So I mean, looks kind of toppy. But then again, the last couple days, it's just trying to pivot here off the 200. So maybe that's a long way of saying the stock market. I'm not sure. I don't know. Seems strangely, it's up right here. I wouldn't be surprised, or I'm not surprised at all by the bounce off the 200. Didn't quite hit it though. So it's like sort of like, is this just, are they going to fuck you everybody here and actually hit these levels? Because I didn't mention that a minute ago. I mean, we did come down into the zone, but we didn't actually hit the levels. So maybe we have to roll over one more time and tag those first before bouncing. But either way, support at 420 seems strong. And then of course we have this M to battle. So there's just a battle here to going on. But point being, dollar has kind of rolled over and the stock market's bouncing, and you'll see that in the NASDAQ too. Same thing. Probably don't need to go into it in any more detail here. Same concept. Upbeat last couple days, and even the Russell caught a good bounce. Even Russell's, the structure looks a lot different, but either way, there's strong bounce here in the Russell 2000 small caps. But the real point to that is Bitcoin doesn't have that same kind of uppiness. I mean, I don't know about, something like this. I'm not saying it's in an uptrend by any means. We're just range bound here and we're at the bottom of the range, but we have resistance up here starting at the 200 and then getting up into short reload zones. So a lot of work for the Russell before it can actually go into like an uptrend or anything. But considering the stock market has, the ES and the NASDAQ have been in uptrends, it's like they're more uppy right now, whereas like Bitcoin is not enjoying that same kind of uppiness. Like we're below the 200 on Bitcoin and already getting rejected essentially. So, and back at the fucking trend line as always. So it's funny how we're just oscillating around this trend line, and it's kind of a weird W structure in there, but ugly range, and it's just been battling with this trend line here and the 200. And so there's just like a squeeze going on here too, I'd say, with more of the pressure to the downside. The classic CMB pattern. So I don't know. Do you guys, just the difference between like the ES and Bitcoin here, to me is pretty pronounced, I'd say. Bitcoin's got some ugly price action here, to be honest. And I think I've already mentioned there's actually like a double cock and balls. So there's definitely some battle. Let's see if I can draw that in one drawing. Because there's this head and shoulders that goes right into this head and shoulders that has the same neckline. It's crazy. So that's fucking battle. With that 25,002 or 300 level being like sort of the key level here. It's pretty fascinating, actually. I don't know what that, even on a weekly chart, clearly that level's important for the future of Bitcoin on some level. The problem is even on the 200, the weekly chart, we're below the 200 here with 200 resistance in like recently. I don't know what that trade on there is. That kind of looks like a head and shoulders. I don't know. Never actually hit the target of the other head and shoulders. So it's still looming up at 35 and 38.2 is up here. So, a shooting up there would complete this head and shoulders and I suppose invalidate that one. But really, we're just here, a lot of interesting reasons. Like the range here has 38.2 being that neckline. The neckline itself going all the way back to this sort of kilo dip down. And we've just set up this level through here. And now it's the neckline of both head and shoulders. So, and actually, anyway, just kind of rambling on about Bitcoin here. It's kind of interesting, but I think the momentum's down right at the moment, which this head and shoulders is ugly, but it is valid and resistance here at the 200 on both weekly and daily chart essentially. So have to get above that to really get too bullish here. And there's nothing particularly bullish here on the weekly chart. We actually have confirmed RSI bearish divergence and OBV divergence. I believe that's so yeah, we have M's and OBV, M's and RSI, and that move to new highs, which actually that's like additional confirmation for head and shoulders. I think typically if you want to use the head and shoulders, you should probably look for divergence here on the left side to the head, just to make sure that you have divergence there. That confirms the head and shoulders a little bit. So I don't know. Doesn't look super bullish. And again, that was just a long ass way of saying why is, like DXY inverse correlation with Bitcoin's been broken for a while. It seems like it's not like it's following it's not moving inversely to the DXY very cleanly at the moment, I don't think. Whereas the stock market still kind of is. And so, yeah, the DXY rolled over a bit at the 50% level, and now the stock market's popping a bit off of the 200 moving average, and Bitcoin's just been still fighting this price action here. It's not it's still up. Like on the daily time frame, the weekly here, we're still making higher highs and higher lows. and the daily here. All these, this key low here still didn't actually take out the neckline yet. So, or this low, I mean, sorry. So technically it's still trying to move higher, but it definitely is looking like rolling over a little bit. And of course, I still think this is the end of the year, like some sort of dip here. We never quite made it up to this level like I thought maybe we would back in here. But nonetheless, now it looks like we might have to just roll over here. And kind of like my basic, well, I don't know. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, but so it seems to me like for the, you know, the stock market came into support. There's going to be earnings this month. I think it's probably likely the earnings are relatively positive. So it makes sense to me that the stock market would, just to go back to that for a second. You know, if we have an uppy rest of the month for earnings, gets us into short reload zones somewhere up in here, wherever we, you know, we pop. And then next month, the interest rates are probably going to be, I think the Fed will probably raise interest rates. Of course, the job numbers came out super hot on Friday, and that's exactly the opposite of what the Fed wants before they consider any sort of pause. I think they've been clear that like maybe pauses at most, but there's not going to be any interest rate cuts anytime soon. So there's not going to be any like interest rate cut juice in the market at all. And really, they'll probably pause and then raise and then pause and then raise going forward for the little while, for the next while here. So that would make November a raise. So it kind of makes sense that they pop it up into the short location into that event and then maybe dump it after that a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So whether that really affects like altcoins and Bitcoin that much, I don't know. But in general, it's not going to be like a very favorable for risk on, I don't think, for the rest of the year here. Maybe I'm wrong, but so it seems like we could easily pull back a bit here, but we'll see. If anything, that's sort of a little fractal top that's trying to come in here this week. So we'll see like how this candle actually closes today, or I'm sorry, this week, and then see if we lose that level there. There'll be a kind of like an empire top looking thing right off the 200 here, which is also just right off the 200 on the daily here, but this will be an M in that case. So we are threatening to M out here. Any loss of like this 27,200 level or something is an M. So got M's and indicators. RSA never really got overbought here, so I don't know. I think Paul is saying he's short, and probably no reason to close that short. And of course, this trend line I think is still very valid. So if we M out, like, probably be a worse sign to actually see an M over here, you know, somehow. Even like that would just, you know, another loss of a low to kind of M out here would probably be a really weak signal. Or maybe they bounce it back up in the trend line, but I think you get the point. So I don't know. Who's super bullish on Bitcoin right here? Anybody in the chat? Anyhow, probably. There's nothing, I mean, I don't know. It's funny. There's nothing that exciting to talk about in my opinion. I think if anything, the best thing to do is get your plan in order. Even I was sorting out my shit here last night because I'm still my altcoin investment and stuff is still a little bit messed up. My accounting and shit because of KuCoin and getting kicked off there and moving stuff. And anyway, so I'm, you know, getting my orders working and stuff, make sure all my sell half on doubles are working, make sure I have bids on stuff that I want to bid on. But to be honest, there's nothing like that I like, you know, I'm still going to in the mindset of waiting for more weekly W's in general. Like I want to see more coins have weekly bottoms than currently do. There's not that many right now. I think that's a nice patient way of waiting for the bottom to come in. There's no rush. And I'll look at some altcoins here in a second, but I'll just say about Ethereum, it is getting closer to the level I've been talking about for a while here. I do think this trend line is going to be tested at 1500 and the ABCD is going to complete. And that's 50% level of this range. So yeah, 1500 is sort of the next stop for Ethereum, and it's finally getting down there. It never got up into the 200 yet. And this is sort of that trend. You can see it in the 200, especially on Ethereum here. This is going to start pointing down. It already is. And like however deep we dip here before the next W, this will determine how deep the 200 ends up going. But either way, like it's going to roll over, and we're going to ultimately, hopefully, put in like a W in the 200 where it actually sort of goes like that. and then price action does whatever it's going to do, and eventually it'll get above the 200 and start a bull. Kind of like, I mean, that's what Bitcoin did. You know, it's like if you look at it over, just, I mean, it's, let me go to daily chart here. Kind of like back here, right? So this is how long bottoms take. I mean, and of course, you never know how it's going to come in exactly. And of course, the 200 here didn't dip as far as maybe it could in this future one, or maybe not. I don't know. But the point being is, like, you can even see it from like all the way from back here. It just had to make that W as price oscillated around it. And eventually, you could have waited all the way to here to get serious about buying Bitcoin, in my opinion. Of course, you're paying up, but you're taking, that's that whole price risk versus information risk thing. Of course, it's hindsight. Like at the moment right here, it would have been hard to step in and be like, fuck it. But if you can kind of, there are like long-term investors that don't even bother with assets that are trading below the 200. Anyway, this was messy, clearly. And if COVID wouldn't have happened, maybe we wouldn't have dipped as deep, but we would have just kind of made that sort of transition through there, start putting in W's and stuff, which I think, Ethereum was already farther along, but Bitcoin, you can sort of, you see the battle, at least just using the 200, you can see the battle here. And so this 200 will, probably just end up looking something like this. Like it'll just, I don't know, maybe doesn't dip that far, but just something like that. And even if we have some sort of panic dump into reload zones, that's an awesome buy opportunity, in my opinion. And then it'll just have to work its way back into a real uptrend. And that's sort of into the halving. So I don't know how deep it'll dip right here. But I mean, if it does panic dump into here, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't buy Bitcoin at 78.6 and below here, if that happens. So if we wake up one day and Bitcoin's down there, it's like, that's the same thing as buying this dip. Because, back here, this dip had a working W, and you're just, you're basically saying, well, I think that's going to hold. Any sort of moves into 88.6 in this case was just down against the old W. It's just a no-brainer buy, really, for the kind of trading we like to try to do on these sort of altcoins and stuff. So the same logic here. It's like 61.8 is at 21.7, and then 78.6 is at 19,000, and 88.6 is at 17,400-ish. And you can see the old W breakouts at 18,385. So if for some reason it dips down in there, that's like the, buying when there's blood in the streets, or buying when they're crying. And, so I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Why am I doing all the talking? Oh, wait. I'm the only one in my room right now. Seems like a slow day on YouTube, too. There's not very many of you guys. Just, although I think my views haven't been too bad, but not necessarily live. But it is slow out there. And, of course, we're still just building our kind of YouTube up. I think we probably have, like, less than 400 subscribers, so we're not exactly, like... influencers yet, but we will be continuing on and reporting every week like we are already. Create a lot of content. Tuesdays is kind of a day for more public shows. There's we open up our live New York trading session to the general public, anybody that's on our Discord room. And of course you can go to our website now and click on the join the Discord room link and join up with our Discord, and you'll see those links. They're just Discord live streams every day during the New York session. We do on the premium side, but then on Tuesdays it's open to everybody. That's sort of like more of what Crypto Traders Arena is all about. It's sort of more of a live trading community in a lot of ways. There's live scalping and swing trading sessions every day. And of course, a lot of people are in Europe, so the London session's traded pretty heavily, and then the New York session as well. And then we make these shows, like I'm just kind of rambling on about crypto on Tuesdays right at the New York stock market close. And then on Sundays, Paul and I are working this investment plan, Road to Financial Freedom altcoin trading plan, which you can follow along with, where we're just actually setting levels to buy stuff. and all that can be tracked in our weekly review room on Discord. And then I guess I think Stefan was live scalping today during the London session, but I don't think that was open for the public. It might have been, but sometimes that is also open on Tuesdays. So it's kind of what we're all about. And most of the stuff we're focusing on is, like I said, day trading. Like I know a lot of those guys are short Bitcoin right now. I'm not trading crypto in that way just because it's hard for me to access any sort of margin trading, or it's just tricky. So I'm basically limited to Coinbase and Kraken at this point. So I just focus on trading CME futures, which is easy for me to access. So and there's a lot of other we're not only trading crypto. There's some gold trading going on, some oil, and then the stock indexes. But nonetheless, got talked enough about all that stuff, and maybe I did highlight a couple strong altcoins, and then I'm not sure. It's funny because I'm not going to say go buy anything right now, to be honest. There's nothing I think's like a pound the table buy. Certainly like okay with like nibbling away and stuff, but there's nothing that's that great to me. There's a couple weekly W's that are holding, like couple that couldn't quite double. Like I have this BNT that like is now coming back. Like basically everything that's popped recently hasn't had much staying power. At least it seems like it. But like, this is one that I had bought on the pullback here. And then of course didn't want to get up into double levels quite, and now it's just coming back down, but it's one that's been strong. Doesn't have very good looking OBV. What else did I see that I actually have that was popping? Oh, the Rune has been uppy, but it's not also not giving me a double here. I don't have it drawn on here, but my double's somewhere up at 232, I think. So I didn't quite get a double there either. Actually, it was pretty damn close, unfortunately. I guess I probably have that on Coinbase or Kraken. Fuckers. Swear that shit happens a lot. Maybe, I think over time I'll get this double off. I just might have to ride it all the way back down. Maybe I'll even buy more. But something like this actually, well, going back into, so if things are going to be weak into the end of the year, it wouldn't be the worst idea to focus on buying things that have been stronger, right? So like, there's a huge difference between a chart like this and like a chart like Matic I was looking at earlier, or something where it's like, I look at Matic and you just, look at all the downside risk here. There's nothing bottom looking about any of this. And bare minimum, there's these candle body lows at 38, which is still like 30% down or something. And this thing looks like it's about to fucking crap out. So I just, anyway, so if like something like, what the hell was I just looking at? Oh yeah, Rune. God, sorry. With Rune, I see a working weekly W, and I see the likelihood of it coming back down into reload zones. So, like, if I was going to be like hunting, I'd rather hunt something like this that's actually been pretty strong here, has a nice base. Remember, I was going same about Bitcoin. Is if you're lucky enough to get a move to 78.6 here, like in a panic dump, or 88.6, I think like the buy is on this one. Whereas like Matic, you might as well wait for a bottom to come in, a true bottom. And it takes a shit ton of patience. And like, of course, then I'm the dummy that's going to come on here and talk about this stuff every week when there's really nothing, it's like, that's not what a bottom looks like. Like if anything, you could draw like a trend line here and say like, the trend is down. There's a nice trend line off of the M here. And there's no, sure, we got on the other side of it, but like there's no W here. So just wait. That W could come way down. Who knows? Maybe that W doesn't come into like way down here. but it eventually will. Like maybe there's some panic capitulation thing to start setting up that bottom, but there's really no reason why this won't come all the way back to 20 cents. So I don't know. It sounds not that fun, but like that's just not really a bottom. But like that rune, like I said, it at least has a W. So if the market does crap out, maybe that rune holds the levels there. And of course, I'm not talking about FA or anything, but I think like people like this from an FA standpoint. I don't really know. Something's been keeping it stronger here. So pretty good example of a W though. So like that one I like in terms of that sort of idea. If you're going to like hunt the strong ones into the end of the year, like what else is strong? I don't know. Like, I mean, things like render are strong, but if I remember correctly, there's not really a great W. That's sort of not true. I guess there's, I mean, it's, I guess that's pretty bottomy looking. I thought it was more V bottom, but, so something like this too, if you're lucky enough to get, you know, AI story, it's probably going to still be relevant. Probably maybe even the most relevant. I don't know what stories are going to dominate crypto for the next cycle. Like last cycle had its things, metaverse, shit like that. Of course, DeFi's been kind of like 2 cycles now a little bit. But like specifically, I wonder, like, I mean, AI is probably going to be pretty big. And I mean, that's what kind of, you know, drove the first of the year pump, sort of like AI names and stocks and altcoins. But point being, this thing, I missed this here. So, I mean, I'd love to be a buyer. I didn't buy here at Mountain Man, but I suppose anybody that stepped into Mountain Man is just enjoying that little bounce there. Not quite doubles or anything. I guess doubles would be like up against the highs here if you did buy Mountain Man there. But point being, like moves to 78.6. It's like if the market does kind of crap out into the end of the year, maybe look for stuff like this that already has a previous double bottom working from January. Ironically, like I saw XRP, I saw like some bullish articles about XRP, and that's another one that like, I don't know. I'd rather probably be a buyer as this thing comes down against the old W's than like Matic. I was even like saw people bullish on FXS, and I've been nibbling this one actually, but it looks kind of heavy. It does have like a W working. OBV is trending higher, and you could even argue, well, that's not a divergence there, but I mean, it looks a little bit heavy here. Just right in the short term is about to make a little sort of 3-bar top. I guess it already did. Now, to be clear, it's all the way down here at 88.6. I mean, location's good on almost everything. It's just a question of like how good. I do much prefer things that have been more based. And this is a little bit, I mean, that's a pretty nice looking base that's being set up here. Kind of setting up sort of an equal low type thing here. So you can almost, I mean, I would guess they'd take out these lows if I was going to make a bet with somebody, I guess. At least testing that 460 low. Again, I think there's going to be selling pressure into the end of the summer or end of the year. So unless something happens now, like what catalyst or what could make crypto rip right here? I guess you'd have to ask yourself, is there, I mean, in general, the public's not coming in yet. I suppose people are quietly accumulating. And there's not really any great stories. If anything, SBF trial needs to get over with probably, which which I saw they're getting what's her name to tell on him. So she's a narc. They got Caroline to narc on Sam. So excuse me, God, my throat is. So I wonder, I think I have that up here somewhere. Yeah, SBF directed me to commit fraud. That looks like everything's fucking AI now. Like I used my AI image that Hanya made me, but man, we're moving into a world where like all media is gonna just be, it's gonna all have that same aesthetic. Like you can kind of just tell the aesthetic of it. It's like clearly somebody made that background with AI. So it's kind of sucky thing about AI. Like I don't care. I mean, I know that humanity's going to move on exactly as it's going to move on. AI is not going anywhere. It's going to be a huge, at least huge meme going forward. But like, it is sad that it's going to homogenize everything, as if we're not already moving closer to some sort of homogenized kind of nothing's unique culture anyway. AI is just going to make everything sound the same, look the same. What can you do? Because it's just going to all be the same. It's going to be using the same uh, information to make its decisions on. That's what I saw. Though somebody asked Chat GPT if XRP is going to have a bull run in 2024. I didn't even read it, but I think it's funny. I don't know about a bull run, but going back to XRP, I don't know. I think the chart looks pretty good in general. Like, you know, of course, I got a double off here. Perfect 38.2 tag. This is, if anything, that's like so typical. The fact it got rejected means it wasn't ready for some epic bull run. Obviously, like 38.2 should be resolved bullishly for a. So when they're not, it just means it's back down to the bottom of the range. So like probably still more down here. But yeah, I even like that level there I've drawn out at 41 cents, the old W. And to be fair, it could go all the way down to 23. So it still does have, I mean, another example, crypto has 50% to come off. Like, I mean, most of these names could come 50% down just out of nowhere. And that's probably the level, the W back here at 24 cents. So that'd be the 50% dump. But in general, it's a nice bottomy looking chart. And for that matter, XLM could argue is already back down to the breakout level. It's damn close. So, I mean, I reloaded here on Mountain Man. So I did take a little nibble when it came down just to 61.8 here. So I'm already underwater on that nibble. That was like 12 cents. And then I have a bid. I mean, really, I should just be buying back now 78.6 and 88.6. You can see how 78.6 is the W breakout level. So that's like just kind of classic retest of the W. And then you can see the 50% move down could just be into this V bottom here. And kind of head and shoulders is the old bottom. But so also kind of bottoming looking, but could easily take out the lows here and come down. Yeah, it's kind of slow. Watch IRV. What's up? I don't know if I recognize that name, but welcome. Yeah, it's pretty damn slow in here, and I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying anything useful. I'm just kind of vibing out here, talking about. I do have a couple of requests I'll look at, and I'll probably talk for another 20 minutes or so, and just make an hour of. If anybody wants to look at anything specifically, hey Steven. Like if there's anything specific people want to look at, I'll happily take a look at it. And one thing I was thinking about talking about, because I don't know, I don't do that much prep to do these shows. It probably sounds obvious, but I'm always thinking about what I could talk about. And one of the things I think that would be most helpful, because I do have a lot of names that we could look at, but I think it would be better to almost just set the stage for like how to look at these names. And I don't know if some of you guys listen to me talk a lot and you already know this stuff, so it's not like going to be new. But if you are new to this and trying to build like an analysis strategy, like it really is simple. And I bounce around a little bit just when I do these shows, because it's fun to talk about different things, and then you get kind of on tangents. But really, your process should be simple. Like, and the process I follow is pretty damn simple. It's just when I'm talking about it, sometimes I'll over elaborate. But I was thinking about it, if like we were going to try to pick coins from like a technical analysis standpoint, because obviously there's however many thousands altcoins now. how do we determine the ones that look better than others from a technical perspective? I'm not talking about fundamentals here. In fact, if anybody wants to come on and talk about how to pick coins from fundamentals, that'd be awesome. I don't hear too many people that are good at that. You know, I don't know. You have like the YouTube shillers that, of course, will be shilling stuff, but I don't know. Like, maybe I don't listen. It'd be cool. Like, send me some recommendations for good podcasts or good YouTube shows that are just going into fundamentals. But I'm not talking about that right here. I'm just talking about like if your plan is pretty simple, like your plan, like our plan in general sense here is we're just trying to take advantage of this cycle that happens in crypto. You can see it in Stellar here. In fact, Stellar XLM has been one of the most. I mean, you might even argue has sort of it's been a big player in the last couple cycles. But you can even just see the up down nature of it. I don't know, when was this? This was the 2017 top, and this was the 2021 top, and you could see the very nice bottom in Stellar. So just that's more of a head and shoulders than a weekly W, but nonetheless it is still a weekly W if you just kind of take the right side of the shoulder, or the right side of the head and shoulders. But point being, the plan here is basically we're just going to try to take advantage of the cycle, which has been about 4 years sort of in general, right? And we kind of base it on the Bitcoin halving. So like the Bitcoin halving is in next May, around there, April, May. And we kind of typically say that Bitcoin likes to bottom before the halving, like maybe 6 months or so, or typically it has a tendency to run up into the halving. I mean, I could even show you that really quick. Let's see. That's kind of fun to check in with the monthly chart anyway, but point being, like, you could see how these yellow lines are the old halvings. Usually we're already in kind of an uptrend by the time the halving happens. COVID was right here where we had sort of black swan dip, but nonetheless, generally bullish up into the halving by a few months, 5 or 6 months or so. And actually, more specifically, kind of dip into, like, where it's like we're in an uptrend, but there's sort of a dip right into it back here in the 2017 top or 2016 bottom, or whatever you want to call this. The run up to 20K, it kind of dipped for 2 months right into it. And I suppose that was July and August in that case. And then here it kind of dipped a couple months earlier with COVID. But in general, just basically, so we're just trying to, I would argue, trying to buy altcoins right here so that you can take advantage of how they're going to move exponentially to Bitcoin, hopefully. But we're trying to buy like 6 months before the halving, right? So it isn't, I think that's right now. So anyway, coming back to my plan, we want to buy altcoins, just like I said, about 6 months before the halving start. I mean, and to be fair, we've been already nibbling, and you could have taken advantage of this run. So it's not exact, but like, I mean, hopefully you can at least just see the, the bottoms coming in. So like, just our basic plan has turned on the green light for buying. So regardless of how bearish, like I posted in the room the other day that some guy was saying crypto's dead. There'll never be a cycle again. Like, nothing has ever come true with crypto. I mean, that's exactly the kind of talk you expect to hear right now. Okay, cool. Well, it's a couple of requests in the lounge, so. Somebody's saying they want to work with me as thumbnail designer or a video editor. Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you mean specifically, but reach out to us. And I mean, there's not much editing going on, obviously. There probably should be more. At least with me, but yeah, that'd be cool. Let us know. Shubham. That's another name I don't recognize. Are you guys in the Discord? Are you in the Discord already? Anyway, I got to speed up my little rant here. Fucking A, I'm just taking too long. So all I'm really trying to say here is, so write yourself a plan that says something like that. You're you're taking advantage of the altcoin cycle that has a tendency to perform with the Bitcoin halving, and Bitcoin sort of bottoms heading into the halving. And so I'm going to look to buy altcoins around then. So that just sets the base year plan, which turns out is right now. So lucky you, if you're listening to this right now, this is a good time to at least start making your plan. And then going on to the technical stuff, all I really do when people give me requests, like I'll use one of the requests here in a minute, but I'll first do this. I'll do XLM first because it's such a damn nice chart and good example. Because like, you know, we know most altcoins are kicked in the nuts here, right? So like we're going to pull up charts of all of them and they're going to kind of look like that. But we're just looking at, you know, we're looking for the, you know, there's a basic cycle here, right? There's the long drawn out bottoms, which have a tendency to be way longer than people want to admit. It's like everybody always gets bullish, like right here kind of, or starts wanting to, you know, they get really excited to start entering right here and okay, fine. But like, that's way early. Like usually bottoms take like how long was that? That was like, maybe if we even just use that as the key low that like stopped the bear, that was the last low. That was February of 2019. And it wasn't truly until November of 2020 that we truly broke out into an uptrend. And you could even argue several weeks later, they tested that level and confirmed it. So there was like another 3 weeks to be a buyer back here. But point being, it takes a long time to bond, you know, so first thing you want to see these things washed out. Like when I go back to Matic, I just don't see how that looks washed out. It's starting, but see how that's like that same kind of early place where we could probably still see more down as it rounds out. So anyway, that's like the first thing I would look at. And we're going to see that in most coins, but some are farther along than others. And I would argue the ones you can pick that are farther along, the better. And then going back to my conversation earlier about strong altcoins into the end of the year, at least like if it didn't rally in the first quarter of the year, because pretty much everything, a lot of things popped here in the first, you know, XLM was a little late, but most of it all started January 1st or so and ran up into the kind of the first 3, 4, 5 months of the year. And those are the ones you're probably going to find with more of a base set here, right? With the bottom. But nonetheless, you know, you look for stuff washed out, and then the next thing you're going to do is learn fibs and just get an idea of location. And I suppose what I didn't mention there a minute ago is like, you'd probably ask yourself one of two questions. Like, is this a coin that was around last cycle and are we back down to the last cycle's levels? Or is this a newer coin that doesn't have a last cycle, which changes things? And then also, is it a coin that had a last cycle, but it's already making new lows, you know, past this, which I would say is not great. Like if you open one of these up and it's like, has a bottom back here and it's already lost those levels, that's like a weak coin. You definitely want to wait for a solid bottom and something like that before you would engage with that again, I'd say. But nonetheless, the next thing we do is just look for location. And we're just going to, somebody was asking me this earlier, David was, and that's why like he was talking about Bitcoin, where do you draw your fibs from? And if you're trading a plan like this, and you're trying to take advantage of the cycle, remember I said the plan is essentially we're just taking advantage of this 4-year cycle. I would use the low of the cycles. So I draw my fibs off here, which essentially is that W, right? So I'm taking the whole price action from the previous low, cycle low. So in Bitcoin's case, 78.6 is 17,000. And you can see what a surprise, like that's where it bounced off of, is 78.6. And damn, doubled off of there. So anyway, going back to XLM. So I'll just and all I'm trying to do here is do the same thing I'll do it at the request in a minute. So I draw my fibs, look at my location, know that we have a previous cycle bottom. I like to buy against the previous cycle lows. This one is at 88.6 and below, so 100% location's good. Then I would just move over and look at this and say like, well, what's in this price action to make me think there was a bottom? Like, are we still stuck somewhere like right here? Like if XLM was here, there's like nothing there to make me think bottom, right? It's just sort of trending down still. And this is where I start to look for divergence. So you could use OBV, which is what I like to use, or you could use RSI or MACD, money flow index, or whatever the hell, I think probably if you're new, sticking to OBV and RSI are probably I think those are the best. That's just what I use though. But anyway, you can see we made a new low here. I would, then look at my indicator and say like, well, is there anything bottoming about my indicator? And honestly, it's trending down here, right? OBV just made a new low, so it's actually making M's here and just trending down. So there's no divergence and there's also no W. So if we were sitting right here, I would say it's way too early. We have good location, but we're way too early. We are against the old cycle lows a little bit, but we're just too early. And then sure enough, time moves on. OBV still hasn't quite W'd or anything. And then right there, we finally W'd. And then look at price also W'd. So like that would have been the first, what I'm proposing here, that's the bottom right there. Like if I was just looking at this chart here, the difference between this and like Matic's like over here right now, threatening to make new lows. No W in sight. OBV's pointing down. Here, I got a W in OBV, which came in on that week, which was essentially the first week the W kind of broke out here. And I don't know if you wanted to be picky, you'd use that level for the W, to be fair. Same breakout level. So going back to that. So now I have the difference between this chart and Matic up here. Hopefully people can see. That's all I'm waiting for. So until we actually get more of these, then I'm going to have to make these shows and feel like I have nothing to talk about. And again, I'm being more conservative. I'm not saying you can't dollar cost average into these names that are trending lower, or just go on and buy them because you're aggressive. I don't know. I'm just kind of saying like, if my plan is to try to call the cycle bottom, I'm willing to have a little bit more, pay a little bit more of a premium for real bottoms. And also just be more patient, man. And most of this comes from I've bought up here too much and I've had to hold, ironically, if we really go into a rip and bull, you'll still get your doubles, but your levels aren't going to be that good. And we also might not go into that strong of a bull. So anyway, hopefully you can see the difference here. So I have, my location reason. I have an indicator confirmation now, which isn't technically in divergence. It would have been better yet if I would have seen a move to new lows here and actually seen OBV W right here. But a W in OBV is good enough for me, a nice solid bottom here. And so I could go hunting right there. And then, all I'm really saying is this is a good enough weekly W to get me to think there's a bottom, as opposed to I kept using Matic, but what's like Algo might be one that looks worse, for example. Yeah, so the difference between this one and XLM is pretty big. Well, first of all, I would do the same analysis. So just going back to my thing. First of all, I would look at it and ask myself, was it around last cycle? And it was. And where are we in relation to the last cycle? And we're all the way down at the lows. So I suppose that's at least you're not chasing price. That's a good level to be nibbling. However, so then, I obviously we're down against the lows of the pre-cycle. So I don't even have to draw my fibs. I know that we're actually well below location. The problem is we're actually starting to lose that low. So that would be my first thought, going okay, sure. If I really like this, then I could start nibbling here for sure. Cause I'm buying the lows. That's a good location to buy. But at the same time, there hasn't been much reaction off those lows. There's nothing particularly strong. We kind of got a decent bounce the first time they FU'd the low. They bounced it, but they just took it right back down. And now we haven't actually closed below. Well, we did back here. Just this week, we might close below that level again, but so anyway, locations, this is a question, is location good? It is in theory, but it's also hardly trending down. So any shots taken off here has to accept the fact that we're still making lower highs and lower lows trending down. And there's a pretty good chance that this current candle is going to, or at least the next low is going to be lower than this low. There's nothing to tell me it's not. And then I would look at my indicators after that. I mean, I have locations okay, but like, and then I have my indicator just pointing down and emming out, emming out, emming out. No W's, no divergence. Would like to see a divergence from here to here, somewhere in there, even from there to there. No divergence. And so this one's just like, in my opinion, not a buy. Like if you love algo and you want a dollar cost average, okay, fine. But like this one's not bottomed. Let's look at maybe a couple of requests. Oh, Steven's saying XLM technically made a lower high last. Yeah, it might have. Let's see. I can't remember exactly. Well, yeah, it was one of the ones that dipped through on COVID. Oh wait, I'm not sure what you mean. It definitely didn't take out that low. That was actually the COVID lows. So like it did like some crypto held the lows on COVID, like Bitcoin did, of course, but many like this and Link and many of them took out that low, but XLM technically made a lower high. Oh, you're talking about last cycle. Oh yeah. Well, I'm not really talking about the highs here to be honest. Like, yeah, so yeah, you know, XLM made a lower high than it did in 2020. But I'm talking about bottoms here mostly, not so much tops. But I mean, that is a good point of like if you know, that's not really a valid trend line in my opinion, but nonetheless, we might only have a bull, you know, maybe the next XLM bull is less again and we only get up to these kind of levels. Still plenty of money to be made though. Yeah, sorry, Steven. I see what you mean. Anyhow, I'll look at a couple of those requests here really quick. I don't know if that makes, I don't know if I did the best, but I'm basically just trying to create a scenario of how I would, I mean, ideally, I would just look at every time you guys request something, I just try to use the same process for every time and just keep myself in order. And that's basically what I just told you. So like, just to repeat it with something else, like somebody was asking about Bone. Oh, that's like a Shiba swap thing. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I thought there is. Oh yeah, Dia and LTO. Those are a little older, so let's look at those first. Dia, maybe look at it on Binance. So I mean, so this is a good point. Of this is a little different because Dia has made new lows here from the last cycle. I remember I was saying that right in itself. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't buy it. I just it's a turnoff to me. It's like an older name, hasn't been able to hold the lows. I'll still happily buy any weekly W's that come in. However, it's just keep that in mind with like, I don't know, maybe I'm just getting it kind of like there's more and more crypto names, thousands of them, and usually newer stuff, like shiny new stuff has a tendency to be the, like whatever the coin du jour, you know, like it was kind of like Solana last time. Like what's going to be the next Solana? It probably won't be Solana. That's all I'm kind of getting at. Like I'm not saying Solana won't go high, but kind of like XLM, how it did make a new high the last cycle because it was sort of like a 2017 story. Same with like Dash, and although I don't remember what Dash did exactly for the highs. So it's like, is Dia one that's sort of like not going to be that exciting in the next cycle? I don't know. I do, you know, so anyway, once we're making new lows here, you can't use fibs anymore for locations. So you have to kind of use something else because this thing is just trending lower. You know, lower low, lower highs, lower low, lower high, lower low, intermediate pivot, sort of lower high potentially. So it's like, I mean, that's kind of like a descending wedge. And so if you don't have fibs to use, what do you do here? I think that's where you either use like a trend line or you use moving averages. And like, of course, we're always going to use market structure, but that's like sort of the last reason. But you would just for location reason number one, you could draw a trend line maybe off the top, which in this case, we're way past it. We just need a W. that's kind of a location reason. You could use a moving average cross system, which is what I would prefer probably in this situation here. What you can see, like the weekly moving averages are pointing down here. They tried to cross and we couldn't get any real W's here. So if we would have actually started Wing out right here, these would have crossed bullish and it would have been sort of a bottom price pattern. But here we're just trending down. They're still trending down. So I'd be inclined to just let these things cross and let a W come in. So anyway, we're still too early location wise. My next thing would be like, is there any sort of momentum reason or indicator reason to think that the bottom is trying to come in? And hell yeah, there is in this case. So Dia is in very much divergence here and showing signs of accumulation in OBV. That's not what I wanted to draw, but just do a regular line here. So, I mean, we made even from that low to those lows, wherever you want to draw them, OBV is clearly in divergence. And even we broke out of like the sort of W kind of price or action here. There's lots of little W's in there. The bigger wide one on big volume, whatever this week, whatever happened that week. And so this one, it's like funny. It's like OBV's trying, but there's no reason why this can't just drift further and further down, even with OBV trending higher. It's just like, I think, you can argue the location's cheap. You can't really use like a tool like Fibs to give you a defined level, but you can say the location's just good by nature of the fact it's cheap, but like that's like a shitty reason kind of in my opinion. And then you have a confirmation on indicators, but you still got to wait for a weekly W. So I would say this is too early too. LTO, I think the same. I was just looking at this one. This one is just getting back down into an interesting level because remember, I always like anytime price comes down into the previous W, then you're buying where the smart money was buying last time at least. The smart money was buying right here. They were buying these pullbacks here against that W, reload zones and whatever. And so we're almost at that level. That's 4 cents, 4.8 cents. And we're at 0.53 or 0.53. So, I mean, I'd love to see a W come in around there, and I would just say location's good based on that fact. We're below 88.6, so we're currently holding the old cycle bottom. We have shit tons of upside. So the fibs, 88.6 is going to be way up here even. And nice OBV. So I have location's good in the sense that we're getting down against the W. Moving average is not crossed yet, but turn those off and just because if I can use the previous cycle location, I don't care as much about moving averages if I can use that W to base my trade off of. And so, location's good. OBV's pointing higher and in divergence. Kind of lots of divergence because we have, even from these lows all the way back here to the current lows, OBV's very much in divergence. But then even more specifically, we have a nice divergence setting up right here, which is kind of like what I really am looking for in the recent move to lower prices. OBV's confirmed a divergence back there, and then even is still Wing, making a higher low here too. So, as price moves to a new low here, we're still going to be in divergence here for the moment for quite a, for a good chance we'll stay in divergence here. Did it actually confirm? Yeah, it even went through that high there, making the W. So you have another divergence there that's basically just waiting to come in as we move to new lows. So there's two good reasons here, but the final reason and the most important reason isn't here yet. So I still don't see a rush to, I'm not going to fault anybody for buying right here. Just know that the bottom's not in yet. If you have a strategy that can say that's the bottom, then I hope you're right. I don't know, more power to you. But if I'm using a weekly W as my final defining bottom caller, then, which I am, that's what I'm trying, that's what my intention is. And that one's not bottomed yet. Anyway, let's look at let me catch up on these comments here real quick. Steven saying, so as part of my plan, I'm not buying that Dino coin, but then again, maybe that's wrong. And are you talking about XLM not making another high? I think you mean, I mean, that's a fair approach. Like if you're going to say, well, XLM didn't make, it made a lower high last cycle, so I'm not interested in it. That's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even telling you guys what to do. It's just like, how do you narrow down all these? Because I'm starting to even, I mean, when I first traded in 2016, it was just sort of like buy everything that W'd, and then as it turns out, almost everything doubled. Like there was hardly an altcoin in the space that didn't at least double, and most of them truthfully went more. And then like the next cycle was probably still kind of like that, but not everything. I don't know. I never saw the stats. Like a friend of mine actually literally tracked every altcoin, or like the top however many hundreds of altcoins during the 2017 cycle, and he made a chart of like how many 10x, how many, and like I actually saw that chart and was just like, holy shit, because everything went higher. And then the next cycle was kind of like that, but there was probably more that didn't, percentage wise. And you might argue this cycle might be more like that, or even more, because there's gonna be more altcoins in the space. There's gonna be more trash probably, and it might be a little harder to pick. Like it's gonna get a little harder to pick. So, like using Dino coins or something, maybe that's not the best thing to trade. Like I bought fucking EOS this time around already, and sometimes I laugh just going like, "What the hell is EOS?" It's heading into its third cycle, and it hasn't really done. I don't know what it's done actually, but it'll probably pop and you'll get your doubles. But if you're trying to work a plan that, are you going to buy 100 different coins? Are you going to buy 10 different coins? People are different. Like that's a different approach. Like some people are kind of going to go in a little heavier on less names. Me, I kind of spread it around a little more and just sort of try to buy a lot of names. You know, our Road to Financial Freedom plan's kind of focused around 100-ish names. You know, more if we get doubles, but like only if we've gotten our capital back out of certain names. So I don't know. I can't tell you how the best way, but I know that it does seem like shiny new things do the best. So it's probably a good idea to at least keep your sort of thumb on the pulse of what's going to be the hot new things, because they might not present this style of trading I'm talking about as well, like where you don't necessarily have an old cycle bottom to. But on the flip side, even though Stellar, for example, didn't make a new high, it still has shit tons of upside just for moves back to the 50% level. And really, like, again, I'm more conservative, but when I think about these things, like even this one here, like, I mean, I've already stated, I don't think the bottom's in, but let's just assume I bought this red line, old W breakout level. I don't have a problem with that in general. And say that was the bottom, just for shits and giggles, say I caught the exact bottom. I mean, I'm only looking for bull markets back to 38.2s and 50% levels. Like if I can't make money on that move, then I should really rethink my strategy a little bit, because I don't want to have to assume we're going to new highs to make money. I like the idea of just moving back here. But even this, like a move back to the 50% level is 47 cents from 5 cents. It's almost 10x. So it's like, can you just take advantage of the cycle move and not really worry about whether we go to the moon or not? I think that for me personally, that's the way I like to look at it. It's just, I guess I'm a little more conservative by nature. EOS collected 4 billion. Well, yeah, that ICO was ridiculous. I remember that. Anyway, geez, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but again, I think it's a little early. I mean, I'm really just trying to get the point across that it's like me, I'm patient, I'm waiting. I don't think the bottom's in yet, but I do think everything that we've been saying, like on Sundays, is true. Like we're in an accumulation year, and this is the time to start thinking about buying. And when you see people hating on crypto right now, don't get caught up in the drama of like people saying it's going to zero and stuff. And you have to really just get with yourself and either you have to be like me, not like me specifically, but like people like me that are going to go like, I think there's a pretty good chance there's some kind of bull run in crypto going forward. It's not going to zero. Like me personally, I don't think Bitcoin's definitely not going to zero, but who knows? And while altcoins, some will go to zero, I think the space isn't going to just disappear. And I also think that this sort of cycle thing, like there is a cycle going on. And even if it's like a muted cycle, like maybe there are some reasons why we won't necessarily have the same kind of bull run we had in 2017, for example. Like, I mean, most specifically, rising interest rate environment. Like interest rates are going to be going up for a while. And that's going to be harder to create the same kind of epic bull runs as 2017. But that doesn't mean we can't get back to 38.2 on this, for example. Because markets just do this. They just kind of do this pattern. I mean, you could kind of see it on every chart. So you just have to, either take a shot or don't. I don't know. I can't, and then how much confirmation you're looking for is sort of up to you. I'm trying to just remind people that if you're buying in a situation like this, you might have to go through this. Like, yeah, sure, you were buying pretty cheap right here at 15, 16 cents, like down against these lows. And you could argue it was like against the old W back here and like 78.6 probably if I were to draw fibs from here. So like I couldn't, anybody just went and hit 78.6 right here at 20 cents, for example. Maybe they even did it right here, and they got their trade off. So it's like I wouldn't have, I'm not saying you can't, I don't know, or it's like that's a viable way to trade. I just think you have to be mindful of what bottoms look like. So I'm just trying to repetitively go over and over what I think a bottom looks like, I guess. Anyway, got some more requests here. Fucking A. I'm already over my hour time too, so try to wrap it up. But there was things I wanted to talk about, like this damn request is up 65% on the day. And that's a pretty good example of there's always a bull somewhere, but was there really a trade in here? There's kind of a W in there if you're hunting. Actually, this one, I mean, I don't really think that's like a long-term looking W. But I suppose if you're like hunting this thing and zooming into daily charts, there's probably a nice daily W right there. They kind of FU'd the lows there right at the last minute. But, I mean, this W is actually still... There's actually this nice W here that came in. And then, they didn't take out this low. So if your stop was all the way down there, you're fine. That's a nice move. So there's always a bull somewhere. It's just the whole market's certainly not doing this right now. So, and this also didn't really fit the criteria of a nice solid bottom. So I do expect this thing to probably, probably next week it'll be back down, but eventually it'll do something like this. And I want to focus on my buying energy on that kind of situation. But let's look at a couple. These are 3 requests I had earlier from David, so move on to those really quick. Ambrosis was one on Binance against US dollar. Going back to my same little thing, I look left and I see that we have a previous bottom here that appears to be holding for the most part. I mean, if anything, the original W bottom's this cheeky little W down there. You could see that nice retest. And that's a good point. So remember, like that one I was just looking at, it's up 38% on the day. Don't feel like you don't want to chase that up there. Just be patient. You can see how they gave everybody, they didn't give you a lot of time to get into this here. You'd have had to be there, but everybody got a chance to reload off of that level before the real pump. And I think there's a damn good chance this happens in most markets. So like you kind of have to train yourself to not get sucked in, like on that other one, request network. It's like people are going to be buying right here and they're going to get run over by maybe even tomorrow. um, so this is why we have to work a plan. This is what I'm trying to do is explain like a way to like build a plan. Which you might miss that trade. You might not get into that request network because you didn't. It didn't really set up the way I'm talking about these setting up, but this one, again, every altcoin's washed out. We already know that everything. This one has a previous cycle low that actually had nice support here at the old W. Like we checked it before the last bull run, and now we're just kind of oscillating around there. But technically, we're holding the low. It looks like to me. Did we actually take out the low? Well, I mean, look at those FUs, man. That's a whole other trading strategy in itself. Like if you want, I mean, there is the FU strategy, which you can see how they never closed it below that level. They just immediate reactions as soon as they tested the old low. So clearly there's some buyers down there, and they even defended it again here. So, that's nice support level that might hold, or maybe they're, who knows if they're still willing to step up there, but it's close to holding the old cycle lows, we'll say. So I would say location's good based on the previous range. And then I would look at OBV and say, well, it's generally trending higher here, especially through here, and people must be accumulating on some level. However, the most recent price action is starting to M out. So it's like we don't really have divergence technically because this is the low back here. But we did try, in that move down there, we actually started. So, I think this is, it's emming out here. So it's like not really a strong sign we've bottomed, in my opinion. But you could argue location's good, momentum's okay. Weekly W, no. So I don't know. At best, I think it probably, does something like that. Maybe has to come a little lower and actually take out all these equal lows that have been established now, because that really, we have like a liquidity pool down there now because we've established equal lows going all the way back to here with like many tests of it. So the chances of them taking that out before bottoming it seems high. That's a little early. What else? Fit5. This is like a step-in type thing. Walk to earn. Which this is the whole narrative. Remember, step-in was fucking, what was it, GMT? This was like a narrative last time around that really worked. And you can see what happened there. Maybe Binance isn't the best place to look at, but it went nuts. And you can see how it's come all the way back down. But I believe this Fit5 is one of those too. So this one's making new lows. So I'm really cautious of ones that are just making new lows. There's no previous cycle, at least on KuCoin. There probably is elsewhere. This thing doesn't trade in a lot of places. Yeah, so I don't know. But it's trending lower here. Had some sort of pump here recently that actually did produce doubles, it looks like. So maybe people that were in here buying against the lows, they got doubles off there. Either way, this is kind of like the state of crypto right now. Anything that pumps, it just comes right back down. There's not a lot of staying power in the market right now when things pump. So anyway, what do I see here? I see no previous cycle to work with. So in this particular strategy, I would say waiting for moving average crosses, which aren't anywhere near yet. We did get a weekly W technically. So, I don't know. Maybe we took the low out there. Low is 27.95 and then 28.95. Yeah. So you can't even call. Well, you can call. There is a weekly W sort of in there, but it's not great. But it's there. So if these lows can hold, then you should expect some sort of support coming in down here if this W is active. So, but I would say location is not great because look how wide the moving averages are, and they're still pointing down, and they're not ready to cross yet. There could be a lot more sideways for those to consolidate against each other here, like another month or so, or a couple months to actually let those get closer together. And if this is the bottom, then you should expect support to come in down here against these, maybe against these candle body lows. So like we should be able to range here for a little while and let those moving averages cross. And so no rush. And then OBV's like definitely somebody's been coming in and buying. You can see the volume, and we do have a nice fat W here now, and that's nice. And it looks like OBV has turned, and definitely volume coming in. So somebody stepped up and started buying the last several months, year, you could say, actually. Well, a couple months. So it's also still too early, but so anyway, one more on those requests. Flux. This is a newer one, at least on Binance. It's basically topped out in 2021, had some kind of run up last cycle. So it did have, I don't know where that bottom truly is. Like you could always go look on CoinMarketCap and stuff on these if you don't have enough history. I just happen to be using CoinGecko today, but I don't know what the best one is. They're all kind of similar. But, if you just quickly go to the all, you can see this one has been around since like 2018, 2019. And it looks like the old bottom was somewhere around 11 cents or so. Well, no, that's not true. I mean, the 2020 bottom was down at like 3 cents. Damn, $3 to $3. 3 cents to $3. Fuck me. Look how long it took to truly do that, though. This thing was around for a while, And now we're sitting at 34. So we're still 10x off of these lows back here. So if crypto really shits the bed, it could come all the way back down. But really, I kind of like those highs in there as support, So that's like 27. So we're getting close to, 33. We're getting pretty damn near the old highs here. So if you're to draw fibs off this range, we're definitely in okay location. So, that's okay. Of course, moving averages aren't really very tight. I mean, at least you want to see them close to crossing, I'd say. I mean, but this also happens. You can see how here they tried. They never really crossed it. And then kind of did there. They did actually cross it there, but it just never had like any kind of W. Did get a W back here that failed, I suppose. So they tried really hard there and couldn't get it. And now price is just drifting. So anyway, we established locations okay on this one. And OBV is really good. So this one's kind of like a good candidate, I'd say. Definitely have divergences. You have multiple divergences. You have one from here to here. There to there, and it's also confirmed as we took out that high. Then you also have the one just in the recent moves, like whether you go from, you could go from, those lows basically to that low. And it's kind of weird because the first few candles here weren't in divergence. The divergence technically started back here, but you have that. That's actually more like this. Which is fair. Those are about all the same lows through there anyway. And so, yeah, there's a good momentum reason. You just got to, this one has likelihood of basing here based on the OBV, in my opinion, but really still got to wait for more of a bottom, in my opinion. And these moving averages will eventually do that. Cross somewhere around there. So anyway, I think pretty much talked out and a little over time anyway. So unless somebody throws something in really quick, I will just maybe leave you with one that I think is bottomed, and that's this bake. This one looks a lot better than most. We've talked about it a lot this week, and it's sort of it's coming right back down to where you'd want to be a buyer, in my opinion. So if you are looking to buy something, me personally would rather take a shot on something like this than a lot of the names we talked about already today. But this is a newer issue, of course, or not new, but it does have tons of upside. Actually, let's look at the history. I don't think I've actually looked at the whole history on this one. I guess it's bakery swap. I'm not even sure if that must be how much is it? It's 13. Yeah, so it's probably this. So I don't know what's going on here. This one came out in like October. I guess it is pretty damn new. Oh wait, I didn't go to. Sorry. Yeah, never mind. This one's been around since last cycle and was at like 2 cents, less around 2 cents back in the day. Has come all the way back down. Nice long consolidation here. That was 37 and we're sitting at 14 here. So yeah, it's lost around 50% through all that time, going back to like last May. So that's a nice long bottom. I mean, I do think I like to see that as opposed to like being up in like trending down area. So I think we can establish locations pretty damn good. I mean, I'm sure it's below 78.6 of the old range. Next thing would be OBV, which in this case, I see some divergence. That's already drawn on here, you know, from move to new lows. Interestingly, the divergence wasn't, you know, they basically took out the lows right there. It'd have been nice to see the divergence continue through there because that would actually set up another divergence just on like these kind of lows. But nonetheless, we have it right there. I like, you know, we have a nice solid divergence. So those are two decent reasons. Then we have a W. So this is a nice looking weekly W in my opinion. You know, it's even like a double W now. And like most crypto right now, this is another example of something that was ripping last week and now they're just going to take it all the way back down. But you know, if you like to buy retests, like you already got your chance last week. Actually, they did retest that level. But maybe draw fibs here and decide where you want to be a buyer. I don't mind buying this anywhere from 12 cents here at basically 61.8 and the W breakout down to like anywhere in the reload zone here, like 88.6 is at 0.094 and then 78.6 is at 0.104. And they, you know, it's not uncommon for them to retest this. And so if you're lucky and you buy that, you get a immediate reaction and it takes off again. The market's like generally not that uppy, so maybe it has to set up again. But this is exactly like what I look for. So this is the only one that's like, aside from XLM and those ones that I showed you that are already based earlier, this is the only one that I see buyable right now in general that I looked at today. Just because I think there's a pretty good chance that W will hold. But like going back to XLM, there's no reason why, like I could see something like this happening where it's, you know, takes off, comes back down, and I mean, it already took off, sorry. And so now it still didn't get much of a reaction. It's still got more time it needs to set up again. But in general, it's one that looks pretty good to me. Where did I just, I guess it's right there. So there's one that's pretty buyable. Actually, there's another one too, really quick, that I kind of think is cool, is this Mona that, I mean, I don't love that they didn't really make the weekly W cleaner here, but it's also one that also fits my kind of, I know it also has previous history back here. It just wasn't on Coinbase back last time around. But it's got like basically a nice weekly W with divergence here. So I like that one. I still think they're early. Just this would have probably had a stronger close last week if it was ready to keep moving higher. Even right here, I mean, they tried it here. That's technically a weekly W and took it right back down. Now they have like even an uglier weekly W in, and it just hasn't really found its footing yet. But it's one that I like. Cool. Well, Watch IRV says thank you. Well, you're welcome. Hopefully, I mean, if I could make any point, I mean, I'm not trying to make any grandiose points. I'm just rambling on, but it's hard because I'm not going to be super bullish here. So it's like, that's the hard part, is I hate using the word bullish because it's not like I'm not a crypto bull. I believe there definitely is going to be some sort of rally, in the closer than later, like, you know, next year. Maybe it takes a little longer than, but I mean, I still don't have any reason to think that the sort of typical Bitcoin halving type scenario is going to happen again. I don't really have any reason at the moment to say that's not going to happen. So I'm basically just sticking with that program. So it's not like I'm a bear. Like, it's just that I want to try to sound as patient as possible. Like, I want to be like the last person to call the bottom. Let's see if I can be, or I want to wait till the last moment. Like, I keep posting that Star Wars image of the dude trying to shoot at the Death Star. But I was thinking about like that. I don't know where it is, but I was thinking about this image. You know, like, I'm sure most of you have seen Star Wars, but it's like, you know, he couldn't fire until the last minute. That's when I want to pull the trigger on these in a lot of ways. I want to wait till the most opportune time. But the problem is that guy got blown up, remember? He didn't actually blow up the Death Star. So, you know, you're taking some risk by waiting. You know, sure, you could buy now and then you're loaded up, and, you know, that's what you call information risk. You're taking a lot more information risk. By waiting till the last minute, you're taking more price risk. You might have to pay up a little bit buying W's and stuff. If you're trying to buy a W breakout, you might have to pay a little bit more than if you're like knife catching. But you have more information to work with, more, you have the W to base off. So you got to find a balance somewhere in here when you're going to pull the trigger. And of course, nobody can do that for you, man. That's the hardest part. You have to somehow do it for yourself. I mean, if anything, I just want to convey that, like, I think pulling the trigger right here is fine. It's just, you also could probably be patient, and I'm not ready for I don't think that there's going to be a bull run tomorrow. So I'm happy to just kind of like take it slow, go patiently, sort of build my list out, get my levels set, and maybe take some nibbles here and there, and try to wait for W's. And then just sometime into the end of the year really is when I think the time to truly start loading up will be, probably right at the end of the year. But we'll see. So, you know, of course, none of this is like direct financial advice. I'm just trying to be helpful and trying to just show my brand of analysis, and I suppose, you know, entertain people, and hopefully just kind of help keep everybody on track for taking advantage of the cycle. So, you know, certainly for the people in our community, and, you know, we're all just trying to keep our heads in the game too, and just, you know, make sure we're around. And a lot of this is just the legwork you have to do while you're waiting. And of course, this is why, like, lower time frame trading, you know, if you want to be a trader, then, you know, this is a great time to still work on your lower time frame trading and do those type of activities to sort of increase your, you know, because there's always money to be made in trading. It's just sometimes this type of trading, I don't know how much money there is to be made in investing in crypto like today. Like, if you're trying to make money tomorrow, it's probably going to be hard as trading these weekly charts. So fill your time with some other, you know, learning, because I don't think there's a huge rush here just yet. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining me. And as always, hit us up in Discord if you want to talk about anything else. Yeah, it does sound like my voice needs a little bit of a break, huh, Steven? But I'll just leave it at that. I'll talk to you guys later. So have a good rest of your evenings, and I'll see you guys. Well, if you're not in the community, maybe I'll see you on Sunday when we do our next YouTube show. Take care. Bye-bye.